Okay, welcome everyone to Hudson Records Listening Club. This morning we're going to be listening to the Servants' Ball album, which features all of these lovely people here, which came out earlier in 2019. I should just add a few words about where the inspiration for this album came from. I read a book by a gentleman called Reg Hall, who many of you will probably know of. He wrote a book in 1990 about the life of Scantester called I Never Played Too Many Posh Dances, which goes through all of the background to his life, his musical influences, kind of what was going on in Sussex, kind of rural mid-Sussex at the time. It kind of runs from, I guess, the end of the Victorian era and it goes up till the 60s. And one of the things that was really interesting about this was the diversity of music which he was playing. You would think, Scantester's probably known as a folk musician, I suppose, in many ways, but he was playing music from all over the place and sticking it through his own filter of, his musical experience. So that was the influence. We were not trying to historically recreate Scantester's music at all, really. We were kind of taking inspiration from his diversity. So we're playing lots of music from that time. So let's roll the first track. This is Egyptian Princess.
I think I assumed that that wasn't going to be a take. And I was going to get another chance to do that.
So I should just say this particular track was written by a banjo player called Joe Morley. And they don't know exactly when it was written because the catalogues are a bit sketchy at that time. It's probably the first part of the 20th century. Joe Morley was a banjo virtuoso from Staffordshire who was a really prolific writer. So we've kind of worked out a version of that for a band.
I haven't listened to this in a while.
All right.
Quite good. It's all right.
I'd buy it.
Yeah.
Is it part of... Sorry, go on.
It's just a brilliantly sneaky tune. It kind of... it's got all these twists and turns to it. Yeah. And it just keeps rolling and rolling along.
Yeah, each of the parts really draws you into the next one.
Definitely.
Was it part of the fashion for Egyptian stuff in the 20s? Is it?
I think probably there's a bit of that going on because it was the height of Egyptology, so there was, there was loads of stuff. So obviously finding Tutankhamun and that Egyptology. So I think there's quite a lot of tunes with an Egyptian flavour.
This sounds very Egyptian, doesn't it?
we should say as they perceived an Egyptian flavour then.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, that's what an intro should be like. I guess it's worth saying...
I can definitely say I've never played a piece of music like this before.
No, yeah.
Yeah, true.
I suppose originally it would have been literally a solo banjo piece to be played unaccompanied. So a lot of the intricacies of the chords and everything would be in the banjo rolls, in that kind of English banjo style of back then on a 5-string banjo. Here goes Rob.
Oh.
You don't often get asked to do a concertina cadenza, but every now and then.
Feel the suspense.
Chopping out, Rob. Old lightning fingers.
I love the way it does that and then it just drops back into the skanking little thing.
great thing about recording this record was that we were crammed into a room. I mean, there was, you know, if we'd had to be socially distancing in the room we recorded in, we wouldn't have got very far. But we were, Ben was virtually on top of me.
I think Evan, you should probably run people through the drum kit you're using. We use quite a weird setup on the, I suppose, is it drums? It's sort of almost percussion, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I guess so. What do we have? Temple blocks, cowbells, old tambourines on top of drums, 26-inch bass drum.
There's a little thing that looks like a row of coconuts that you've got. What's that?
Yeah, those are the temple blocks, I believe they're called.
Temple blocks.
Hey, do you know what? I sound like I'm about to tell you why, but I don't know why. But why are they called temple blocks?
I don't know. They look like boxing gloves.
Yeah.
I think it's probably
I prefer coconuts.
Yeah.
I think it's because they come from there's some Chinese influence on them, so they probably assume they're a Chinese temple kind of thing. But they were in all drum kits kind of originally, weren't they?
Absolutely.
Nearly every kit setup would have temple blocks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bring back those days. Oh well, we are.
Yeah.
We are bringing back those days.
Yeah.
But I think it just, it gives the drums on this whole album it sticks them in a certain place. So it doesn't really sound like a modern kit. Obviously, it's the way you're playing it as well.
All in the fingers, Ben.
Absolutely. Here we go. So this is The Bird on Nellie's Hat.
Every Saturday, Willie got his...
We've got Ewan singing here.
Then he'd call for Nell. Trousers neatly pressed and a nice...
I always think on this, my banjo is slightly out of tune.
Bouquet as well.
Surprisingly.
On Nellie's little hat.
I think what it was though, because we were being filmed during this, and there was a big light right next to me, and it was just the banjo, because it's got a vellum skin on it. It absolutely hates the light.
I'll be a little...
That's my
I think it's in tune with the 1920s.
Exactly, that's what I was going for.
I don't think they had tuners back then, did they?
No. To take the money, said the bird on Nellie's hat. Last night she said the same to Johnny Wise.
I think one of the things that amazes me about this song is how explicitly filthy it is.
Well, they don't know.
And I think even those of us who are quite well listened have an idea of this period as being a little bit straight-laced. It just isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose this started out as a music hall song, I would imagine.
It was, yeah. I don't know whether it was from a particular musical. I think it's an American song, originally. I learnt it as a tune because it was one that Scan Tester picked up on and turned into one of his A-B type tunes. But that's how I learnt it, and then I looked it up and I saw Hattie Jakes singing a version of it, which I never knew she even sung. It's actually very, very good.
We're following some hallowed footsteps there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's 12 o'clock, said Willie, as he took her home. I bet you're never out as late as that. Well, you don't know Nellie like I
think this melody is a bit of a sort of mashup of the Scan Tester tune and the original music hall tune. Because the musical tune sort of goes quite high and up and down, and this is a sort of...
You mean in a good folky tradition?
Yeah, quite, yeah.
It's a bit the melodic mashup.
Yeah.
Autumn came along, Love's Dream all went
Not called the difficult bits.
Willie went round to call.
Breakdown.
Yeah.
Servant with a grin.
That's the thing about Scan Tester, actually. It might be in that Reg Hall book. It talks about how he'd often pick up a jazz standard or something and play the A part.
It's a brilliant tempo, this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
She loves Stream is o'er, but we can be real good friends. And I'll keep your presents, honey, just for old time's sake, said Nellie as she rolled her dreamy eyes. She has fixed him good and plenty, said the bird on Nellie's hat. Oh, Willie, Willie, when will you be wise? Oh, but
Oh, Willie.
the diamond engagement ring. Of course, said Billy, you'll
and Evan, you remember the fun we had trying to find the bird whistle for this?
Oh,
There's the bird whistle at the beginning and the end. Oh man, you think they'd be in every corner shop, but no.
The saucy little.
remember that one of the shop owners wouldn't sell us one because he said it was too rubbish.
That was this one. Listen to it, it's beautiful.
Ben was trying to buy it, and he kept going, "No, I won't sell it to you. It's useless."
I think the thing is you've got to get the water. It's got water inside it, which you've got to have at the perfect level to get the full warble. Anyway, there we go. Bird on Ellie's hat. So, moving on now, we're going on to number 1 step dance.
Go on, Rob.
Really nice learning this tune actually, because it's a proper Scantester classic.
Right.
But of course he played the Anglo concertina and I'm playing the English concertina, which is, you know, a difference that most people won't necessarily clock. But it's really nice to copy a bit of that lift and oomph that he got. And it's a great tune.
I think that was sort of one of our aims with this album. Obviously, it's a real mixture of songs and tunes, but we were trying to keep the tunes really kind of swingy and dancey.
The other thing with this, I guess, people think Scantester is, you know, folk fans see Scantester as a sort of archetypal folky, but he was a dance musician, and all those photos of his band, there's always a drummer, isn't there? So having that drummy, groovy thing happening is kind of essential.
Interesting.
There we've got
I didn't know that.
the sound of Ewan step dancing there. How to have dancing on your album. So when we're doing gigs, obviously Ewan's dancing away to some of these ones.
Yeah, I think that was a. That was like, I think it was a sort of simplified version. I think I did a take where I did lots of sort of fancy footwork, but without the visuals, it sort of sounded like a lot of so much shuffling.
Very tricky.
You know, in a way, well, it's like coming from an American musical background, I began to feel as though that what were you talking about, Scantester as being a kind of eclectic dance musician and playing, not just playing some kind of pure folk music. And I grew up with the music of the North Carolina Ramblers, you know, Charlie Paul, and that's exactly in the same position where people look to them as being kind of the archetypes of some kind of pure folk culture, and yet they were magpies, professional musicians.
Well, I mean, I suppose the thing is they were playing stuff that was popular, so they'd get gigs, or they'd be playing in the pub. Everyone would buy them some more beer and say, "Play some more."
Yeah.
So you know, you're not going to be sticking to your traditions if you can play something that's more popular to get more people interested.
Well, then if it's good enough, it becomes the tradition.
Absolutely.
And that leads us on to Champagne Charlie quite nicely, doesn't it?
Okay, so what we got to remember this one. This was one of the first sort of international pop smashes. I think it's from the 1860s, made famous by George Leyburn, who was a music hall act, and this was a mega hit. So this is Champagne Charlie.
I've seen a deal of gaiety throughout my noisy life. With all my grand accomplishments,
It's
Julian vocal, ladies and gentlemen.
It's such a good song, this one.
RFG game, a noise all night in bed, all day and swimming in champagne. For Champagne Charlie is my name. Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any game at
The problem with this one is my kids now go around the house singing Champagne Charlie.
I was just about to say exactly the same here. In fact, it makes me realise that we've gone the last third of lockdown without hearing Champagne Charlie. So tomorrow morning, we must resurrect. The way I gain my titles by a hobby which I've got. The issue I found when we first started to sing this one and the other one was the odd thing about having to sing without an accent. Trying to sing it in your normal voice, if you like, really.
Yeah, tricky.
Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any game at night, my boys. Good for any game at night, my boys.
They got all the funky syncopated banjolele there from Ewan.
Was it? I missed that.
It's all it just gives it that kind of kick along. The banjolele is almost like a percussion instrument, picking up on the swing.
It's amazing how well it sits with the drums and all the tracks. The banjolele, it's amazing.
I've started more as well when we're playing live gigs. Less chording, and sometimes I'm just kind of bashing the strings with a muted hand, just to add an extra sort of little percussion thing. It works really nicely.
It's only really a matter of time before it makes its way into the hits of today. that effect. Yeah, I can see it. Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any game, but not my boy. Who'll come and join me in a spree?
Do you know, I always listen back to any recording I've ever been involved in with a horribly critical ear, and I can't. I just hear all my own wrong notes. But of all the things I've done, this is probably the recording that makes me consistently smile from start to finish. It's just such a joy to do.
But Moe's vintage only sad.
Yeah,
It's so funny.
So what I should say, one of the other things with this, we recorded, I think the whole album we just sat down and played the songs. So there's a couple of percussion overdubs after the event, like the bird whistle. So that was pretty much it, I think, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, we were very much in one room, sitting good and close, and there was no separation on anything really. It was all,
there's no booths or anything.
No.
I think most of the good takes seem to be the early ones as well.
Yeah,
I think
we might do 4 or 5 takes, but it would usually be take 1 or 2.
Yeah,
that would
just
be
the sort of
one.
enjoyment of playing the tune, and then it sort of comes across somehow.
Each man a bottle of jam.
I guess that's why it's so much fun to listen back, because even recording it didn't really feel like it was about any one of us. It felt like it was just a real collective bit of music making fun.
Champagne Charlie is my name. Good for any.
I think it was left to Rob after the event, so we recorded the whole thing in a couple of days, and then
Come and join me.
there we go.
In a spree.
And then it was left to Rob after the event. He had to go through all the takes and kind of, because the problem is when you record live in that kind of way, the spill is on all the microphones. So it's more like sort of seasoning a soup, I would say, really than mixing. Because normally, you'd separate all the sounds and push them all up. But with this, as soon as you try and do something to the bass drum, you suddenly find the fiddles change sounds. And so it's just a case of balancing. Which is no mean feat, having tried such things myself.
Yeah, but then of albums I've mixed, this was one of the easiest ones to do because it had its sound in the room. We were making the sound of the record, and if it wasn't there between 1 or 2 takes, it was.
Well, I think the other thing we should add is so if we were all in the same, and it wasn't a massive room, it was a agricultural audio, which is kind of a cow shed out the back of Lewes. Down near Brighton, and we're all in the same room. There's none of us had headphones on at all, so we're literally listening to everyone else's dynamics, which is how you can get that brilliant, really subtle kind of ups and downs in the dynamics. Because as soon as you put headphones on, you're very much detached from the dynamics of your instrumental playing. So for this kind of music, it was a brilliant way of doing it. Let's move on. Okay, now the next track is a track called Sultan Polka. This is written by d'Albert in 1860. He was a Frenchman who was living in England at the time, and it's another one of those pieces of music. I guess it was a light classical piece of music, and it kind of went on to have a whole life. So you'll recognise other songs stuck to the words. Here we go, Sultan Polka.
What funny music. Every project I've been involved with Ben has been ridiculous.
So you can really hear the temple blocks going here. On the other section.
Big feature on the temple blocks.
That's how I got the gig.
We need to talk about the low boy symbol as well, don't we? When's the moment for that?
Did you name it a low boy symbol, or was it? Did you discover it as a low boy symbol?
No, that's just what they were originally called. I guess because they're way down by your ankles, And then many years later, they raised it up, became the hi-hat.
Because it's a mechanism like this, isn't it? So it has two cymbals, and you just press it with your foot.
Yeah.
Eventually the hi-hat turned to this complicated big mechanism, but it just gives you that real slightly circusy cymbal sound.
And what's this sound we hear?
It's that beautiful tone.
Got the joyous tone of Ewan on the nose flute there.
Nose flute.
I think the trick is with music like this that if you took it too seriously, it would be awful, and if you didn't take it seriously at all, what would be the point? And I feel like what we did right was to hit that sweet spot of taking it seriously but having a laugh,
Yeah.
Are you saying that we just about took it seriously?
I'm saying that however much we were laughing at it, and still are, we genuinely liked it enough to want to do a good job of it.
Yeah.
And for the pompous bits to be,
Well, I think you have to play them with conviction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Going back to that thing about choosing takes and doing it all live, it does make you realise, particularly for me, because I don't do this kind of thing too often, that the feel, listening to the album as a whole, each track has such a lovely feel to it, and that the slight discrepancies in tempos that might have been between each take, it's part of the thing of choosing a great take as the one that is by that indescribable sense of like, oh, this feels.
I mean, it is amazing. It's amazing though when you listen. You do 4 takes or whatever, and just even a couple of BPM with this stuff, where you're really trying to get it to groove, makes such a big difference. And suddenly you get it on the right tempo, and it just has that nodding off it goes kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Which leads us on to the next track. Here we go. So this is Pretty Little Dear.
I like this intro.
Another Scantester classic. Never before with this intro.
Sounds like Fleetwood Mac. What's that one? Where they've got the marching band. Tusk.
I think it's great that, one of the things I love with this album is all these dance tunes. It's really pulled the swinginess out of them.
As a tune player, as someone who often plays tunes either by myself or with a couple of other tune players, to actually play these tunes with a rhythm section, with drums and bass and the piano and you, it's so lovely, you know.
Yeah.
Then, you know, to be able to do the dueling tune thing with that behind us, it's just a delight.
It's a real treat, and it only works because it's a good rhythm section. Because I'm sure you've had the same thing where you're playing tunes, and the rhythm section is just not quite getting it. It sucks all the music out of it.
It can make the tune unplayable,
yeah.
Or it can make it like this. It's like it's impossible not to play these tunes nicely. Yes, guys.
It's like a proper dance tune. Here we go, people.
Waiting for the drop.
I do find the
on the banjolele again there.
Yeah.
Although it's the sneaky triplets, isn't it, on the banjolele?
Well, yeah.
I love the accents. The accents in that tune is brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, and you know, I suppose that's part of the thing with Scantester being a step dancer. Apparently, you know, in his youth he was a competition-winning step dancer. So it just brings out that kind of, you know, the danciness of that music. Right, we're going to move on now. We've got I'm a Man That's Done Wrong to My Parents, sung by Ewan here.
I'm a man that's in trouble and sorrow, that once was light-hearted and gay. Not a coin in this world can I borrow, since my own I have squandered away. I once wronged my father and mother, till they turned me out from their door, to beg, starve or die, in the gutter to lie, and ne'er enter their dwelling.
So this song, I mean, it seems to have been collected as a folk song in quite a lot of places. But it, yeah, I think Lucy Broadwood collected it in the 1890s, and Baron Gould and a few other people. But it really doesn't sound like a folk song, so I don't know what its origins are.
It's a peculiar song, isn't it? I do like it.
Songs this miserable are very out of fashion.
Near me, or by heaven I'll give you in charge. My mother, poor thing's broken heart.
With this one and also the Champagne Charlie, I love the whole story element of it all.
For to give me a
where you're listening to the next verse, is carrying on the story. It's a tale about this fantastical tale.
And that's done wrong to my parents, and daily I wonder about.
It just feels like such a drinking song, doesn't it?
Maudlin.
Yeah, just revelling in your disastrous life.
Appropriate for today, I would say.
Quite possible.
And daily I
nice to get a waltz on the album.
Yeah. Is this a key change?
It's weird, you hear the songs like this and you see the kind of direct link to Chaz and Dave and all of that.
Yeah.
All of that East London pub musician thing.
Yeah.
This bit brings me out in a sweat. This is where in the live show I have to go and select someone to waltz with. Just...
Oh, with a Glock.
Right, okay, well, let's move on. We've got another dance tune next. Wild West Gallop. So we're still struggling how one authentically dances the gallop.
Oh yes, we are, aren't we?
Well, like you say that, but then some of the demonstrations we've had in our live gigs, I dispute that. I think we've seen there are evidently some people in the country who are very well adept at a gallop.
We have had some spectacular gallopers.
We have.
Another glorious moment on the nose flute.
Those words aren't often put in the same sentence together, are they?
We're going to change all that.
I think I was playing it almost too well at one point because it sounded like a bad penny whistle.
Yeah, I didn't use that tape.
So I think I got told to sort of like slide up and down.
There it comes. I think the thing is with the we can hear some galloping in the background there. So we had Ewan, he was on a board with his step dance shoes on with a microphone right near them.
This was hard.
I think this is the most bewildering track, taken in isolation. This is the most bewildering track on the album. It's the one that's most likely to scare people.
Well, it's the different sections of the tune are so... They just sound like they're almost
Bulgarian
folk
music. I think it was Bulgarian. I'm not sure. I've got a cassette somewhere with it on. That was kind of like this, like moving through a few very different sections. Some of which sounded kind of cowboyish. Very weird.
Oh, there's a bit of Rob getting fancy on the concertina.
Well, if you can't go double time on a tune like this, you know, what's the problem?
Almost a slight sort of nod to the Bavarian.
Hang on, you haven't mentioned the whistle in the background. What's that called again?
The siren whistle.
Siren whistle, that's it.
I mean,
was that something that did you source that for this song, or was it lying around in a box of tricks?
I had it in my stunt instrument box. I mean, you know, what better way to announce a change of musical section than a siren whistle?
Yeah.
Well, that's almost the hardest. I mean, it's not easy to play any of this, but I think the hardest bit with this is remembering what's coming next.
Yes, I agree.
Particularly when you have jotted on the top of the piece of paper A B B C C A B B C A B B C A B B.
Made perfect sense at the time. Yeah.
Times two.
He just yeah. The album should have been called "Good Luck with That."
Right, so here we go. So this is Winter Cotillions.
Yeah, so these are from the manuscript of a fiddle player from Somerset called William Winter, who I guess he was playing about 1850, round about then. And the cotillion is sort of the precursor of the quadrille, which in turn is the precursor of the square dance, as done in America now.
So is the cotillion originally French?
It's kind of, I guess I'd say it's hard to pin it down. Like a lot of these kind of dance crazes of the 19th century were not so much from a country, they were about people trying to emulate what they perceived to be the style of a country. Like the polka or the polonaise are all of Poland, but it's pretty hazy how much actual Polish heritage there was in any of that.
Well, I suppose it's like the Sultan polkas written by a Frenchman living in England.
You saying that this was a cotillion written by William Winter makes me realise that I have a godson called William Winslet, and I think it's now my responsibility as a godfather to encourage him to pursue a career writing cotillions.
Yeah, I think so.
In his name, I think.
I'm not sure that would be a career, unfortunately.
Not with that attitude.
Well, you say that.
So it's another one of these tunes, you know, like the Wild West Gallop, where the sections are real. It feels like there's gear shifts, especially, you know, out of the rhythm section. So they're sort of bang up in these juxtaposed kind of ways.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting finding these tunes on the page, because there were 3 cotillions on the same page of the book, but one of them was in 6/8 and was of 6-bar parts, and the other 2 were in 4/4 and 8-bar parts. So it's kind of hard to imagine, like we wouldn't think now you'd play those for a folk dance, but actually the change is really fun to do, and
it makes much more sense listening to it and playing it than it looks like it's going to.
Yeah.
There we go. So the next track we've got, another one sung by Julian. This is Beautiful Boy. This came from this book, which is, I think, from the 1870s. Is it called Humorous Songs?
It was in the winter, about 6 in the morning, when
possibly the darkest lyrics of any song I've ever played, I think that. I've played a few dark songs over the years.
It's not a belly laugh by today's standards, is it?
Saw such a baby before. Swore I was like my papa. Oh, and there is the nose of mama. Oh, with a few alterations. Oh, la. Oh, we'll make him a beautiful boy.
I think it just sits so beautifully with Julian's voice, though.
Some might say I was born to sing this song. Beauty cried out, Mrs. Sneer, will be troubled without the child.
There's a lot of words to get out of it as well.
Dear Mistress Glazer arose, and a piece of red putty stuck bang on my nose. This made me wink. Takes a lot of especially with something like this, it makes you realise that a lot of the things that you play or sing are in such a style that you've sort of grown up with, or you have in your consciousness. And I seem to remember with the 2 songs to sing on this album, for me there was an utter absence of reference. So you're coming, and Ben, you were gracious in sort of like, here's these songs, make of them what you will kind of thing. But it makes you realise that as a musician you often would search for some reference, you might do some listening or whatever it might be, but not really have a sense of a style to something, of how you might
phrase it, express the words, all those things. It was quite a sort of a blank canvas approach to doing something. It's very refreshing to just have, okay, here's a tune and here's some words that you have to sort of make fit and interpret and whatever, you know. Had it not been such a beguiling tale, you know.
But I think that's interesting because we did an album launch gig and Reg Hall came along to do a chat about Scantester and his music, and that was sort of one of the points he was making. Is Scantester sort of sucked all this music in from stuff he'd heard in loads of different places, but he got it and just did it his way. There was no, I need to be doing it like this. It was like, well, I'm Scantester, these are my musical skills, this is my version, and off he would
I think that's really great and really important to have that kind of sense of ownership, and because that's when you can really be playful and inventive and have fun with something.
And such a sweet mouth for mince pies. Oh dear, what a beautiful boy. Now ladies, beware of love's powerful darts, for fearful am I shall steal all your hearts, and then, sweet dear little creatures, you'll
My favourite verse.
and dote on my charms till you languish and die. For you know I can't marry you all, but believe
that's the best line on the album, isn't it?
my endeavours.
No, it's this line's my favourite.
Although such a beautiful boy. Oh yes, such a beautiful boy.
Beautiful to listen to that one. So I mean, I'm guessing that, you know, it comes out of probably some Victorian parlour song or maybe music hall. It's hard to know exactly what it was written for, but it'll be one of those, I suspect.
I like to think it was the song where the children had to put their hands over their ears and they were ushered off to bed whenever it was played or came on.
Yeah, I'll give that a try.
See how far it gets you.
So that leads us on to Les Rats Quadrille.
That fill is on the drums is available as part of the new Ewan Jenkins sample pack. Little plug there, Evan.
I'm hearing it everywhere now.
I think also available as a ringtone, though.
What, that one that you change immediately when you get your phone?
You know, I think this is another one where it's just keeping that swingy side out of the tune right up.
This is exactly the kind of music that I had real trouble with when I first encountered English music, when I first started playing it, and it seemed so kind of obvious and uninteresting, and then I kind of my tastes got weirder and weirder, and eventually they kind of came round the other side, and exactly. And suddenly it seems really strange to me in a good way, but it's hard to play. I found it like I say, like growing up with American music, everything's so swung, and that's like you just hit the groove and play it. It's kind of easy, and to play so squarely and still give it lift and life is a whole other discipline.
But then, you know, why do we, as English tune players, why do we feel we have to play these tunes squarely? Because Scantester didn't. If you listen to the recordings of him, he's as groovy as anyone. I think we just kind of lost our groove. And then to make tunes like this work, which I mean, as a tune, this is nothing.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you find the groove of it, it's addictive.
But it is the groove's in a different place. It's in a slightly, some number of degrees away, isn't it?
It doesn't have that compelling backbeaty thing of old time music.
I think also what's very, this is obviously a quadrille, which was, it's a piece of music made up of lots of contrasting sections, but when you actually stick them all together and listen to it, you can see how if you're dancing, those section changes are crucial, because suddenly they just give it this whole shift.
And the same trick as the Cotillions, the 4/4 goes into 6/8, but the beat stays in the same place, so you get this amazing lift as a dancer.
Yeah, it's all about the dancers, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so here we go. This is Egyptian ballet.
Of course it is.
It's like some kind of ensemble grade 8 piece, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no margin for error on this one, is there? It's got to be
it felt very much
concentration.
like taking an exam the first few times we played this.
Well, I had the joyous experience of turning the original sheet music into a sort of playable 2 or 3 part tune before we even started.
So I think this was originally written as a kind of piece of light classical music, written in the 1870s by, I'll check my notes here, Alexandra Luigini. You can correct me on the pronunciation if you like.
There's apparently some lyrics to this tune. I don't think original lyrics, but it was Dan Quinn, who was at one of our Worthing gigs, told me that Arthur Askey and Richard Murdoch used to do a little on their radio programme. They used to sing along to this. Like these really ridiculous lyrics that they made up.
It doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me that Dan would know that.
No.
And it's sort of amazing, that sort of thing with lots of these tunes. The lifespan of the tunes is incredible. It's like, some of these I would know as a kid before I was even really a musician, and yet they were going way back. Ewan on the cheeky shuffle.
Kind of a secret weapon, isn't it?
I love that one.
That's a little Appalachian step there.
We did really miss a trick by not quoting the Bangles on here at some point.
I used sand on the board for that one, which I found at the playground in Worthing. My kids
get stealing municipal sand.
No. I took it back.
Sadly, that I believe brings us on to the last track, doesn't it? What have we got left? Yes, track number 13. So this is Old King Cole. Now this is it's an old song. I don't think they really know the origins of it particularly, but this one again came from this 1870s book, Humorous Songs. It's a kind of slightly different take on the lyrics. So let's have a listen to that one. King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his glass, and he called for his fiddlers three. There was Paganini and Spagnoletti, and to make up three, Marie. For King Cole he was fond of.
So I remember on like the chorus of this song as a bit of a nursery rhyme.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyone else?
Yes,
Yeah. But not the verses and the bizarre story. That's been edited by the merciful.
It feels like a very Donish sort of joke, like some Oxford professor writing it for the amusement of other Oxford professors.
And his drinking was extreme, for he scorned the fetters of.
Did you find anything out about this band? Who Spagnoletti was and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I mean, those people were virtuoso musicians of their day, so they're getting name checked. Very old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called.
I think this was another one-take wonder, wasn't it?
And he
I
called.
seem to remember this was just did this once. It was very good.
Old King Cole was a musical soul, so he called for his fiddlers three. I think it's another one of those songs where some of the lyrics have references that have just been lost slightly with time. In a symphony. Spagnoletti and Maury, they played an oratory, while the great Paganini played God Save the King on a single string, and he went 12. Because I suppose this song comes from, or the lyrics to this, I mean, the book's from the 1870s, but this could be, I guess, some decades older than that. And it was the sort of peak era of the touring virtuoso. Look in a fortune-telling book and read him his destiny. And that would have been a very, quite a society thing of going to go and see the latest violin virtuoso coming through town. His nativity. A mole on the face boded something would take place, but not what that something would be. Oh, King Cole was a merry old soul, and a merry old soul was he. He called for his pipe, and he called for his glass, and he called. It's another one where the lyrics do get a little bit smutty towards the end, I think. A bit smutty. Old King Cole, he scratched his poll, and resigned to his fate was he. And he said, it is our will that our pipe and glass you fill, and call for our fiddlers three. So Paganini took Viotti in G, and his concerto played he. But at page 44, King Cole began to snore, so they parted company. Oh, King Cole drank so much alcohol that he reeked like the worm of a still. And while lighting his pipe, he set himself a. Nice, so you got the concertina accompaniment. It just keeps evolving as it goes through. And these are the whole of the records of King Cole from the Cotton Library. If you like, you can see them at the British Museum in Russell Street, Bloomsbury.
That's the punchline.
Oh, King Cole was a...
Yeah, the whole song is about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not really
It's like the first appearance of Jabberwocky, where the whole thing is presented as though it's a discovered Old English poem. He writes it
And he called for his grass,
in Old
and
English.
he called for his fiddlers three. There we go, and that's nearly reprised. That's the end, sadly.
Yeah.
What fun it was listening to that.
It's been a little while.
Absolutely.
Very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, it was a brilliant, fun album to make because we had a few days of rehearsals and then just sat down and played the songs, and it was all, it was a really good way of not taking recording too heavily, which I think comes
The whole
out
thing's
of the
just been a
material.
really lovely ensemble experience. From choosing the material and knocking it together, all of that's been great.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's a brilliant, and as in terms of an ensemble piece, it's brilliant because everyone sort of shines in their own totally different ways within it. Because sometimes with musical things, you're trying to almost adapt yourself to fit in. But this is brilliant because everyone's just being themselves at the same time as playing all this really weird old music.
It's got its own strange logic as well, hasn't it? The sort of just the whole thing of it. I keep now finding little tunes and I think, that would be a good Servants' Ball tune. Certain tunes have got a particular slightly eccentric kink to them or something that you just think, that's...
Yeah. Well, we'll have to start work on number 2 soon.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Definitely.
I suppose we should wrap up. I'm sure there will be some links next to this video to buy this. I hope you've enjoyed listening to it as much as we have. And hopefully we will see you soon at a gig somewhere when we can gig again.
Yes, please.
Yeah.